Alrighty, so I'll specifically tell you, hey, these are the ones you need to know. Okay? How did Latin and Vulgar Latin get spread across much of Europe? Okay. Latin and Vulgar Latin. Latin was the official formal version of it. It was the language of the Roman Empire, right? Roman Empire. So as Rome expanded and their empire expanded, so did Latin as the language of their empire. All right? Exactly right. Then Roman Empire falls, right? And what happens is people in the empire were no longer connected to each other. And so they all started speaking their own versions of Latin, right? They would call those the Vulgar Latin languages, all right? Those Vulgar Latin languages turned into the various Romance languages, all right? So all of the Roman Empire spoke Latin. Then when the Roman Empire falls, the various regions spoke their own version of Vulgar Latin, which is more of like a informal version. And then those vulgar languages turned into, Spanish and French and Italian and Portuguese as time went by.
So, okay, Latin got just confused because the Roman Empire was conquering the region.
Yep.
And then after it fell, Vulgar Latin started, and then after that started, like...
Kind of turned into the Romance languages, yeah. Alrighty? Exactly right. And then there we go, right? That's the second part of the question, right? What language branch developed out of Latin? It was the Romance branch. Alright? And hey, that makes sense. Romance, the root is Roman. Alrighty? So just think about that, okay? Alright, be able to identify the major language families of the world and their general location. I'm going to come over to one of the boards to write this down, okay? Okay, so obviously we need to know Indo-European, right? Alright. You need to know Sino-Tibetan, or Sino-Tibetan, however you want to call it. Okay. You need to know you need to know the African ones. So Afro-Asiatic. By the way, put African. Okay. Niger-Congo. And then the smaller ones that are dominated by these two big ones in Africa. Nilo-Saharan. And the click one, right? Click, click, pop, right? Right? Khoisan. Alright. Alright.
Oh my God.
Those are the African ones. No, Nilo-Saharan is the one. Let's say that's Africa, right? Okay, hey. Afro-Asiatic is up here. Alrighty. Niger-Congo, alrighty, is... Niger-Congo is here. Alright. Nilo-Saharan is smack dab in between. Alright. And then Khoisan is right down here. Alright. So again, what's happening is Afro-Asiatic is spreading south, right? That's the language, if you remember, Arabic is its most common language, right? Niger-Congo is spreading up. And so Nilo-Saharan, which is in the middle, is being smushed, right? And those folks are either adopting Arabic or they're adopting Bantu or Swahili, which are the Niger-Congo languages. All right? Khoisan is being dominated by Niger-Congo, right, as it spreads into that area. And so our pop-pop clicks, right, are going away, right, as time goes by and you're pressured more to learn, especially Swahili, which, remember, is the lingua franca in Africa. All right? Yeah. Kazakhstan is considered to be an Altaic language, all righty, which I haven't gotten to yet. All right? Okay. Other languages that you really need to know, or language families that you need to know, all right, are other Asian ones. All righty, Austronesian, right? Which are the languages, if you remember, of Southeast Asia, right? And I'm trying to think if I put the other one on there or not. I'll put it on there just all right. Austroasiatic, which is the languages of places like Vietnam. All righty, Vietnam, Thailand. All right. So those are Asian language families. All right. These are the African ones. These are the Asian ones. This is Indo-European, which frequently stretches over a bunch of areas. Right. I'm sorry. No, it's not. It's Europe and parts of Asia, North and South America. All right. Yeah.
Do we need to go into depth on it?
No. No. Oh, you will on Indo-European. I'm going to do that in a moment. All right, you do. All right, on any of these other ones, you do not. You just need to know the family and where it's going.
Are there going to be questions on Swahili?
There will be. There could be. Because Swahili is an important lingua franca in Africa.
Okay.
Alrighty, so you need to know what it has.
Would you? Isn't that like
It's a trade one.
combination of languages? So,
It usually is.
so
Yeah.
you'll probably ask like, what is Swahili, like the combination?
I would probably, it would be more along the lines of like, what would be the lingua franca of Africa? All right, something along those lines. All right. Hey, I think I'm not because the camera's behind me. Alrighty, so. Anyways, questions on any of this?
No.
I don't think I asked any other specific things than that. All right, those are the language families I asked you to know. All right. Now, Indo-European, we got to go into further detail, further depth, right? So, we got to actually know the branches of Indo-European. And the branches of European, obviously Germanic. I know my marker's not great. All right, Romance. All right, which I'm sure some of you could probably use more of. Balto-Slavic.
I really can't wipe it.
All right.
Do you want?
Wait, isn't that my question?
Indo-Iranian. Wow, I'm kind of proud of you for knowing that. Alrighty, I think you're thinking of Uralic, right? Uralic language, which is kind of unique in that area as well. Hey, now that I'm thinking about it, there's one other family I want you to know. Alrighty, I want you to know Altaic.
Yeah, see, I'll take it.
Alright, Altaic, which is the language of Central Asia.
Wait, is that Poland?
No, it's its own language family. Alrighty.
Yeah,
Its own family.
Just stop for like a minute, because we gotta do this, okay?
No, please.
Enjoy yourself.
Get it up. That's a freshman, not freshman.
It's Central Asia. What's the attitude? They didn't do anything.
Juice. That's a family, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
All of these are families over here.
Okay, and the one I said was a branch?
It's technically its own family as well. Uralic. Alrighty.
And then I forgot what kind of languages were inside of that.
Oh gosh, what is it called?
I'll take is its own thing?
Yeah. Uralic is.
Huh?
What did I just ask?
If I'll take is its own.
Yeah, it's a family.
She's putting us into European. You're messing us up.
Yeah, I am. Stop messing it up.
You're the one telling me.
Estonian is a Uralic language.
Armenian is not?
Huh?
Armenian?
No, Armenian's Indo-European. Hey, this is why Armenian is such a trip. It's the only Central Asian language that's Indo-European. All of the other ones, including Azerbaijani and everything around it, is Altaic. But Armenian stands out as this Indo-European.
Is Jaffer's language?
Urdu is Altaic.
It's
Urdu is Altaic.
I was gonna say Jafar.
Whoa, relax, people. We're losing it here. Alrighty. I think that really covers it. Now, hey, you do need to know where each of these branches is at as well, right? And that does include, hey, you need to know like the Germanic branch includes English, right? And that means it would be practiced in North America, right? You need to know Romance is also practiced in South America and Central America because of Spanish and Portuguese, all right? So you need to know these basics, all right?
Hey, for Romance, you can
Australia as well, South Africa as well, right? Because those
for
are
Romance, you can say Europe. Because there's Italy, there's.
well, the problem is Germanics in Europe as well, right? And so is Balto-Slavic. No, you got. Hey, here's how you would describe it. Romance is generally considered Southern Europe. Alrighty. Germanic is considered Northern Europe. Alrighty. And then Balto-Slavic is Eastern Europe. Alrighty. Northern Europe. Southern Europe. Right. Eastern Europe. Right. And Indo-Iranian is Middle East and Asia. Middle East. Probably. Hey, make sure you can identify where most of the language families are distributed. We already did that. All right. Now, here's a good one. What's the most commonly used language in each of those families? Alrighty, well,
Mandarin.
that's Sino-Tibetan or Sino-Tibetan, right?
Yeah.
So hey, in Indo-European, what's the most widely used? English, right?
English.
Okay, English for Indo-European. Mandarin.
You go.
Alright. You only need to know the two big ones as to the languages. Arabic for Afro-Asiatic. Alright. Niger-Congo?
Don't say it. Swahili?
Swahili. Alrighty.
Juicy, I'm freaking stuck.
You're doing well.
Yes, you are.
Wait, which one's now?
Check.
You can call me.
You don't need to know Nilo, you don't need to know Altaic, you don't need to know the language specific. Alright? Arabic is Afro-Asiatic.
Can I just put
Ready? What's that? No, you don't need to know Altaic. Now, what you do need to know, you do need to know the languages for these branches. Germanic, again, is English.
English.
Right? Romance?
Spanish.
Spanish. Okay. Balto-Slavic?
Russian.
Russian.
Oh,
Indo-Iranian?
Hindi.
Hindi.
You're the test. My God.
All right. Excellent. You're in the wrong
Why are you
class.
laughing?
Yeah, you're in the wrong class. All right. Okay.
We have 4 minutes, Majewski. Come on.
I know.
4 more questions.
Okay. Make sure you know the Indo-European family in greater detail. We already did that. Alrighty. Be able to explain the reason why certain families have been more dominant in some regions of the world. Okay. So, Indo-European has a lot to do with colonization. Right? Hey, why is Indo-European dominant in North and South America? Why is it dominant in Australia? Because of colonization, right? The European countries colonized the rest of the world and adopted those languages. Alright? Sino-Tibetan? Right? Sino-Tibetan has a lot to do with the spread of communism. Alright? Communist government, remember, of China established it as the official language and pressured or forced people to go ahead and practice it. Alright?
Is it communist?
Alright. The other language that I really want you to know and why it's dominant in that area is Afro-Asiatic. Why is Arabic in particular?
Because of
Yeah.
Islam.
Bread of Islam.
Bread of Islam. Alright.
Okay, so for Latinos, just because of the pinkos.
Damn.
Right?
It is, yes. Yes, and part of it is the huge population there, but they used to speak a lot of different languages there, but when the Communist Revolution happened, they established Mandarin as the official
Am I
language.
allowed to use that term?
No. Alrighty. No, in fact, it's loaded language that we generally frown upon. Alrighty. Okay. Be able to explain the reasons. Okay, I already get it. Which three language families have the most worldwide speakers? Indo-European, Sino-Tibetan. That's right, Afro-Asiatic. Alrighty. So again, Indo-European is the largest. Sino-Tibetan is the second largest. Right? Afro-Asiatic is the third. Alright, now I'm just going to tell you, I don't think I asked the third, but I will ask you for the first and the second. Alright? What?
Why is Turkish and Arabic not in the same family? Because there's really
Isn't that a
similar
trip?
words.
Isn't that a freaking trip? Nah. I've never understood that either, dude. Especially, hey, think about this. Well, think about this.
There's so many, yeah.
Both of the theories were where it developed. The Proto-Indo-European. We're in Turkey. But Turkey was, isn't that weird? Alright, anyways, hey, I'm going to keep on going till 4:10 or 4:15. If you got to leave, you got to leave. If not, stay. Alright? Three language families have the largest speakers. Alright? And we just answered why that was the case. What are the differences? Oh, hey, what three languages? What three languages have the largest number of speakers? What's number one? Mandarin. Number two? English. Number three? Spanish. All right, well done. All right. What's the difference between a creolized and a pidgin language? A pidgin is... Okay.
Creole is the one dominant, indigenous dominant.
I think they got me in a
indigenous
fucking shot.
language mixed with a dominant language.
Okay, you're right about that. It's an indigenous native language mixed with a dominant. Now, hey, pidgin is a language that is spoken by people who normally speak different languages, but when they come together to communicate, they use a simplified version of it. All right? Creolized language is when that pidgin language becomes their permanent type of speech. Alrighty?
Yeah.
So again, pidgin is just used when they communicate with each other, and then when they separate, they go back to speaking their actual language. Creolized is when they've adopted that pidgin language as their permanent language that they use. Alright? What's the difference between a standard language and an official language?
The standard, isn't it, like when people that, never mind.
Okay. I think you were on the right track, just so you know.
An official language is like the country, so like here in the US it's like English.
Okay. An official language, yeah, is where the government adopts an actual language as its primary language of operation, right? Yeah, official. Standard is, yes, where there is not necessarily an official language, but people choose to just use that language in that particular place. Now sometimes, hey, sometimes official and standard are the same, all right? Because the official language is what the government has ordered to be used, and standard can be the same, right? Where people are using that in everyday conversation, and at the same time it's the government's official language, right? Sometimes they can be different though. For instance, in India, in parts of India, the official language is Hindi, but people still speak English primarily because that was the tradition dating back to England's colonization. All right. What is a multilingual state? Obviously, that. Yeah, a state with more than one language that's practiced. Alrighty, or embraced. All right. So.
Multilingual state is what?
Multi-languages are spoken in a country. All right.
Oh my god.
And that doesn't mean, by the way, that there's like one person that speaks the language. We're talking
the major English,
Swahili.
When they what?
Oh, it was in your chapter guide, is what I'm going to tell you. The last chapter guide you did, you wrote down what the major lingua francas were. Alright, because there have been some changes to it recently. But you need to know English and Swahili as dominant ones. Alright? Hey, provide examples of multilingual states. Canada, Switzerland, Nigeria, Belgium. Right, all the countries that we really covered in class as case studies are multilingual states. Alright? Belgium, Nigeria.
Jesse lost $5. Can you find them?
I can take care of it, trust
If
me.
anyone finds it, can you tell Jesse?
Okay, I will definitely tell them that.
God.
Alright, thank you. Alrighty. I feel like I just saw like a character from like the movie Miniature Ninja or something like that, right? Anyways.
Multilingual franca developed.
Where's that?
To boost,
Hold on. Isolated languages.
it's
Obviously.
a language where
Shh. Go.
okay, it's when somebody from an original language goes to like an island or something and they start speaking something, and that's like the most original form, and that's like where is it? The one place. It's Ireland. Oh yeah, Ireland.
Iceland.
I know.
Yeah,
Okay.
isolated language is a language that is not really connected to any other ones because it's physically isolated from other regions, other countries, other languages around it. So it's unique, right? And you're right, Iceland is a great example. Celtic languages as well, remember, and you're right about that with Ireland. Gaelic, right, the language in Northern Ireland is also isolated. Basque is an isolated language, if you remember, between Spain and France.
Oh, yeah, never mind.
Okay.
What was it? That?
Basque, B-A-S-Q-U-E.
What is? I thought Madagascar was.
Well, it's not isolated, and here's why. Because it's an Austronesian language. It's part of the family. But if it were by itself and not connected to any other family, then it would be isolated.
Okay.
All right?
So even if it's like connected to another family, but it's like unchanging and not being affected by the other languages.
It would still be isolated in that.
It's like
Icelandic.
Icelandic.
Yeah, because it is a Germanic language.
Yeah, it's deriving from
Right. Exactly right. All right. Lingua franca. What reasons do they exist? The lingua franca is a primary language of communication and trade between different people in an area. All right. So it's designed for commerce and trade, so that different groups can trade or conduct business with one another. Usually, lingua francas are the language of the dominant culture. All right. So English is the most common lingua franca. All right. Swahili in Africa is a lingua franca. All right. There's actually very few that we consider to be lingua francas around the world. All right. Mandarin is embraced now as one in Asia. All right.
How does it develop?
It develops so that people can conduct commerce, business, or trade with one another from different societies. All right. So, for instance, when Europe would come down and take resources from Africa and bring them back up to Europe, those native societies in Africa, in order to conduct business and trade, in order to exchange with the Europeans, had to learn English as the primary method by which business trade transactions were done. All right, and they still learn English and know English for that purpose today. Okay. What are some of the major lingua francas? Again, I would encourage you. English and Swahili jump out at me. I would encourage you to look at the Learning Guide, Chapter 5.4, I believe, because it told you specifically the 3 or 4 others that are now being considered lingua franca. All right. What's an endangered language and/or an extinct language? I think we know those, right? Extinct or dead. Endangered are on the verge of becoming extinct. All right, just like animals.
And it's when they're like no longer in daily use, right?
Yes, correct. Okay. Absolutely right. All right. And examples of each: extinct languages. Cornish, right, was one that we covered, right? We used to be spoken in a part of Britain. All right.
Latin.
Latin is the most famous of the extinct languages. All right. Hebrew, but Hebrew's been revived. Alrighty, so it previously was extinct, but they brought it back from death. Alrighty.
That one goes under the
Goals.
Oh.
Yes. Endangered languages, you guys covered some of them, right? Aboriginal, Australian, American native languages are all considered endangered. All right? Be able to explain the differences between the American and the English dialect. This was in one of your chapter guides. The major differences cover three things. All right? They cover vocabulary, so the words that we use, all right, are different. Spelling is the second difference. We spell words differently. The English tend to add more letters to words, silent letters, right?
Also like Spanish, the Spanish.
Spanglish.
No color.
It's
Like color, like honor with the U or with an
and
O,
then
right?
extend the ah and then
Correct. So spelling, pronunciation, and vocabulary. Spelling was the third, by the way. Spelling, vocabulary, and pronunciation. All right, how we pronounce words is different. Those are the three differences between American and English dialects. Spelling, pronunciation, and vocabulary. All
Should
right?
we know the specific like differences
No.
within the? Okay.
No. All right, you just need to know the three things that separate us. And by the way, those are the three things that generally separate all dialects from one another, right? An accent is just speaking differently, just pronunciation. A dialect is all three of those things together. All right? What are some of the dialects of the United States? Honestly, these are kind of specific, but you know, you would say things like the Western dialect, right? What do we call it? The Southern dialect, right? The Northeastern dialect, right, is one of them. The Midlands dialect. Those are the big four. All right. Thank you, dude. All right. Yeah. Southern.
Western.
Western.
Northeastern.
Northeastern.
Midland.
And Midland. Yeah.
Midland.
Midland. All right. Midlandia. Be able to explain what Proto-Indo-European language is, and briefly describe the two major theories. We covered that in class today. All right, so that's what I gave you those slides about. The Kurgan theory, nomadic warrior, and the agricultural theory, right, by Colin Renfro. All right, so you need to know the two we covered in class. One of them based on conquest, one of them based on the spread of agriculture, right? Are there any questions on that? Do we need me to cover that?
Do we need to know their names?
You need to know the names of the geographers, yeah. Maria Gimbutas and Colin Renfro.
What's your last name?
Gimbutas, Gimbutas, and Renfro, Renfrew.
Redford?
Renfro. It's pronounced Renfro. It looks like it would be pronounced Renfrew. Yeah.
Redford what?
That's his last name.
Colin.
Colin Renfrew. You just need to know his last name. Because, hey, what you're going to notice from this point forward in this class, dude, is we come across tons of geographic models, and you have to associate them with the geographer who developed them. So, Gimbutas came up with, do you need another first name? Oh. Gimbutas came up with the nomadic warrior thesis, all right, or theory, all right? And then Renfrew came up with the agricultural theory.
What's Renfrew's specific?
Colin. All right.
What is the nomadic warrior?
Hello, where were you in class today? Alrighty, those were the slides I handed out today in class, the very first ones we looked at. Alright? Just take a look at the slides I gave you today. They gave a really good explanation of what it is. Alrighty?
Next.
Be able to briefly describe language issues in each of these places. Hey, you